Welcome back, viewers. It is I, Drayhan, and welcome once again to a Dungeons and Dragons character conversion. Now, unlike the last few character conversions I've had where I convert characters from other franchises into playable characters for your players, I am now focusing on you, the Dungeon Master, and converting creatures that you can send against your players. On this episode, I will go over dragons. Now you're probably thinking, don't we have enough dragons? To that I would say, no. There is never enough dragons in the game that has dragons in the title. So, I went throughout the history of Dungeons and Dragons and found some interesting dragons that you can unleash upon your party. These dragons are of the metal class, metal variety, if you will. Now, of course, I said from Dungeons and Dragons. That means that from older editions, I am taking a dragon and putting it into the style of 5th edition. And I think we will start off from our last version of Dungeons and Dragons, 4th edition. Because there were some excellent dragons there from the metal variety. Though not many people like 4th edition, but the creatures there I found amazing. And one such creature was this one right here, the Adamantine Dragon. Now, if we see here, I have actually converted everything there is for the Adamantine. Anything needed, I put in here. Of course, I used a simple template for my dragons and just added on what was necessary. And also, I am not going to go over each stage of the dragon's life cycle. I am only using ancient dragons, just so I don't have an extremely long video. Now, I would have also put in layer actions and regional effects. Unfortunately, I do not have those complete. That's why it took so long to actually create this video. No, I will be saving those for perhaps another video. Leave a comment down below if you would like to see layer actions and regional effects for these metallic dragons. Also, leave a comment down below on what else you would like to see me convert. Whether it be a character for your players to play as, or a creature that your characters must face. Now, enough stalling. Back to the Adamantine. Now, the Adamantine dragon is a lawful good dragon, from what I have read. Though 4th edition made it a neutral being, I found that this would be perfect as a lawful good entity. Of course, I had to make a few changes to make sure the Adamantine was a little bit tougher, had higher defense, if you will. At least that's what I tried to do. It has an AC of 24 and hit points of 450. Now, you might see some similarities between these dragons and some of the normal dragons you can find in the monster manual. That is because I took them as my main basis, my base. Not only did I use a certain template for my dragons, but I based them off of the dragons that we already have and just tweaked them to fit. Now, Adamantines' damage immunities is Thunder, and I gave it a condition immunity being Deafened, because most of the time a Thunder attack is going to also deafen. And you'll see some other attacks going off of this later. One ability that I added was Adamantine Resistance. Basically, I looked up the Adamantine Armor, one of the magic weapons, one of the magic items, and used its ability for my Adamantine Dragon. So any critical hits against the dragon become normal hits. This will make it a little bit more difficult for your players, since they need more critical hits in order to defeat such a dragon. Going down to the breath weapons, we have Thunder Breath and Deafening Breath. Now, it seems to me that all dragons have a damaging weapon and then a conditioning weapon. So, for my conditioning weapon, I did Deafen. Now, unfortunately, I didn't really have anything that would cause Deafen as far as a breath weapon would go. Some people have fire, some of them have acid, but the only thing I can really find was having the Adamantine give an ear-piercing shriek. Now, this is the picture for the Adamantine dragon that was in the Draconomicon metallic dragons. Moving on, we have the Cobalt Dragon. Now, the Cobalt Dragon was very interesting, I can see. It's not exactly one of my favorite dragons, but I did really enjoy trying to convert this one as far as layer actions and regional effects. Again, I don't have them here. If you want to see those, comments down below. Now, from what I saw, the Cobalt Dragon actually does not come from the overworld. It's not an overworld dragon originally. It comes from the Shadowfell. It is a Shadowfell dragon. No, it's not a Shadow Dragon. No, it is a Shadowfell. And that plane is a very interesting plane. Now, when I was originally making this, I thought that I would have the Cobalt Dragon go by what it already had. So let me go ahead and... I was going to do force damage, but then I saw that it was cold damage that it did. So it only has a cold immunity. However, I gave it the amphibious ability, which means that it is good on land and in water. I don't remember exactly why I had amphibious for the Cobalt Dragon, but I do. And I don't have... Let's see, wait. I got it. I do have... Let me go ahead and look it up. Okay, Draconomicon, Cobalt Dragons, page 30. Cobalt dragons make their lair in glacial rifts of low-lying caves hidden in wet gorges or deep under north-facing slopes and steep hills. Kobolds think nothing of splashing through freezing water to enter or leave their lairs, so that's why. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way. The breath weapons that I gave the Cobalt Dragon were their Cold Breath, which is absolute zero energy, and then their Repulsion Breath, which pushes back. Excuse me. Which will push back creatures 60 feet away from the dragon. Now, it's not the best picture that I was able to get, but this is also from the Draconomicon Metallic Dragons book. Mithril. Now, these were interesting. Mithril dragons. Neutral good. These dragons only served deities. And when they have a higher calling, they just leave those deities. But they're an odd dragon, to say. From what I read, the mithril dragons are from the astral plane. And they have control over time and space. So these dragons will definitely be difficult for their player to face inside their lair. And they actually have a third attack, other than their breath weapon. An extra attack, Dimensional Flurry, which was really interesting, and I had to put it on here as their 5th edition attack. Now, thankfully, this has a recharge of only 6. So it'll definitely be more or less a 1 or 2 time use. The dragon basically just teleports to an area, and then when it appears in that area, there's an explosion of light. Causing any creature that fails the saving throw to be stunned. Now, the 2 breath weapons Mithril has is Astral Breath, which is radiant damage, superheated yellow light, and Stunning Breath, which will stun the creature. Now, by this picture, you might have the mithril dragon roam the deserts, probably with a few sphinxes, which would make it even more challenging. Mercury. These were more cowardly dragons. From what I researched, these dragons did not like combat too much, and would try to flee whenever possible. These are one of our weaker dragons at an AC of 22, but they do have 550 hit points. They are immune to poison. Their Quicksilver Breath is a line of acid. And honestly, this one's a little weird. According to the Draconomicon, their breath weapon not only dealt poison damage, but it affected the player's eyes. It didn't blind them. I do have a blinding shining breath, but Quicksilver Breath is interesting. If a creature were to fail their saving throw, they must treat the dragon as invisible for 1 minute. This is definitely interesting if you have a party. Because one player might not be able to see the dragon, but everybody else can. But if it's only one person, which is a rarity, they won't be able to see the dragon at all. They'll see everything else, but they won't see the dragon. So the dragon will either A, have time to escape, or be able to kill the player. Mercury dragons have, from what I've seen, have been known to be assassins. But they're a little cowardly as well. Now, I did not give them the typical shape change. I just gave them Quicksilver form, which lets them polymorph into an ooze-like creature. Now, I also gave them reactions, because that's what it seems to have in 4th edition. Fluid shape. Basically, it lets the dragon have a dexterity saving throw against the attack. On a success, the attack targets another creature that's adjacent to the dragon, which can be pretty difficult. And Quick Snap, when a creature moves adjacent to the dragon makes a bite attack against that creature. Basically an attack of opportunity almost. And here is the Mercury dragon itself. Now, you'll be able to probably find these in volcanoes, kind of like red dragons are. Now, some of these dragons actually do have enemies with either chromatic dragons or other metallic dragons, which I found interesting. Now, this has to be one of my favorite dragons, the Steel Dragon. Though it is lawful neutral, I do see this as having a home in a city of some sort. You could have this in an elven city, have it as a guard for the king, or prince, or whatever, as part of the royal house. And you'll see why here in a second. Now, its 2 breath weapons are Force Breath and Zone Breath. For Force Breath, it just a pulse of force that will stun if they fail. And Zone Breath is a little more interesting. It has gravitational force pulling all creatures downward if they fail, and knocking them prone, so it keeps them from attacking. And Hidden Steel. Now, I could have had this as a different thing, like maybe a legendary action, just change one of the main legendary actions to Hidden Steel, but I found it more interesting to have it at its bigger attack. Again, recharge of 6. The dragon becomes relatively invisible. It can be spotted, though, with a DC 20 investigation check. The effect ends when the dragons dealt damage, so I didn't make it too difficult. But thanks to this picture, you'll see why I want it in a city. This dragon just so happens to be looking over the city it is in. Like I said, it's a kind of a protector almost. And just by looking at it, it kind of reminds me of a gargoyle. So maybe you can have it command a fleet of gargoyles or something like that. Now, this dragon I had the most difficult time going over. The Orium dragon. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a very good dragon. I personally love it. This dragon just wants to restore ancient cities. So you can have this dragon at some sort of ruin and trying to rebuild the ruins. However, what I found a little more difficult was its breath. For its ability is Living Breath. When a dragon uses its breath weapon, it summons an ancient vaporous serpent. The elemental will then take its turn after the dragon. It's, like I said, it's a very interesting ability. The Orion Dragon's magic is able to bring its own breath to life. Now, its breath weapon can only recharge when this ancient vaporous serpent drops to 0 hit points. So you have to be very creative with how this goes as far as story. So, say the ancient vaporous serpent dies. You can have it dissipate into a gas, and that gas goes back to the dragon, and it inhales the gas, symbolizing that it's recharged its attack. Now, it has 2 of them. 2 breath weapons. Acid Breath and Poison Breath. Now, I was hoping that I'd be able to have a petrifying breath. A breath that would turn creatures to stone. Because I thought that went well with the theme of the Orion Dragon. But unfortunately, that seemed a little too overpowered. So I just gave it acid and poison. And here is the Orion Dragon. I think it's supposed to look cat-like. Oh, and also, its tail attack. I did have to change that. The tail attack not only did its normal damage, but it grapples the creature. Which, that is pretty powerful to say the least. And grappling is no laughing matter. However, it cannot grapple another creature after it does so, which is typical. But one of its legendary actions is a tail attack. So, in between turns, it can just grapple somebody to make sure that they don't attack. Now, the ancient vaporous serpent, I just had to use a giant snake as the base. Give it no challenge rating at all, so no experience for killing it. And it also has a constrict ability. Now, I was going to have it where it could perhaps rust the armor of the creature it grappled, but I was like, that's a little too much. We'll just go ahead and give it a grapple ability and a bite ability. It is already a medium-sized elemental, with an AC of 13 and 12 hit points, so this is going to be a smidge more difficult to face, especially for a lower level party. Again, this is the ancient vaporous serpent. For something weaker, you would have to bring down the AC a little bit. I'll say a 10 for an adult vaporous serpent. The Iron Dragon is, well, it's not the best one out there. Hold on. I think I messed up somewhere. Yes, it looks like I've messed up a little bit. Let's change that. There we go. I want to give the Iron Dragon an AC of 19. It is immune to lightning damage. I'm sorry if I haven't been covering everything. Now, the Iron Dragon does have Iron Wing Defense. A dragon has advantage on saving throws. Additionally, once per long rest, a dragon can increase its AC by its dexterity modifier until the end of its turn, which is 2, so it'll be a 21. Which can be somewhat difficult. But that's only once per long rest. Its breath weapon is Lightning Breath and Weakening Breath. And it also has reactions. Predator's Response. When a dragon takes damage from a melee attack, it makes one claw attack against a creature that dealt it damage. And then it has Wing Block. When a dragon is hit by any attack, it can make a dexterity check against the attack's roll to block with a wing, reducing the damage by half if the dragon's roll was higher. The dragon can't use another reaction during this turn. So I have limited what reactions you can do. You can either use your Predator's Response or your Wing Block. Now I did... Hold on. Well, it looks like I did have a extra piece here. Hold on. I did not mean to have Wing Shield here. That was something different. Small mistake. That was meant for the legendary actions. Okay, so now that I fixed that, there is my Iron Dragon from the Draconomicon Metallic Dragons. Now we get into the Ferrous Dragons. Now these are truly lost metals. These 3 dragons come from a dragon magazine from, I believe, 3.5 edition. We have the chromium, the nickel, and of course the tungsten dragons. These 3 dragons are, we'll say, a little more deadly. Chromium, well, chromium are definitely something else. From my research, chromium dragons don't even care about their own young. The young will still stay with the adult chromium dragons, but they have to fend for themselves. And both silver and white dragons really do not like the chromium dragon. The silver dragons will even go out of their way to hunt down and kill chromium dragons. Now, this is probably because of how similar chromium dragons and silver dragons are in appearance. Chromium dragons have been mistaken as silver dragons, and because of their evil nature, most likely they've given the silver dragons a bad rap every so often. So, yes, you could probably have a nice story where a silver dragon needs your help, or a village needs your help on getting rid of a silver dragon, but it turns out to be this chromium dragon. I did not give it any special abilities, but its breath weapons are Cold Breath and Paralyzing Breath. And here is the picture that I was able to find. This was from that specific magazine, or whatever it was, a catalog maybe. But there is that picture. Next is the Nickel Dragon, which has been known to be in swamps. So it has the amphibious ability as well. It has Acid Breath and Slowing Breath. And here is the Nickel Dragon. And lastly, we have the Tungsten Dragon. Now, the Tungsten Dragon is seen in the desert, kind of like the brown dragons are. But Tungsten. Now, Tungsten I found interesting. Their breath weapons are sand. You get a hot sand for the sand breath, which deals fire damage. And I gave it blinding breath, just because sand can blind you sometimes. But there's not really anything too special about Tungsten. But it does look pretty cool. It kind of gives me a feeling of a kind of a green dragon almost. Alright, so that is all of the metallic and Ferrous dragons. Now, wait, what's going on? What? What's this? What about the Rust Dragon? Viewers, are you trying to tell me you want to see the Rust Dragon? Good. Have it shown in your preview? No, well, yeah, I did, and yes, I do have it ready, but good. Alright, I'll show you. The Rust Dragon. The Rust Dragon, you could probably have the same type of dragon just by giving a Rust monster the half-dragon template. But I digress. The Rust Dragon is one of my more favorite dragons. It was the first special dragon that I came across. You can actually find the Rust Dragon in not any Dungeons and Dragons book per se, but it comes from a book called the Dragon Rider's Guide. It has all the metallic dragons in it, as well as some special dragons that you probably have not seen. And I might go over that book again another day for another video. But the Rust Dragon is only born from a metallic dragon's egg. Now, I'm not sure how the process actually goes, but the Rust Dragon is pretty much the albino of dragons. It is very rare. So you can have this Rust Dragon have the shape of any other metallic dragon out there. However, it must have the rustic look of the Rust Dragon. It is immune to acid. It has the Iron, Scent, and Rust metal abilities from the Rust monster stat block. We have two breath weapons, Acid Breath and Corrosive Breath. Now, Corrosive Breath is very similar to the antenna attack of the Rust monster. However, it doesn't give a -1 penalty to AC or damage rolls. It actually gives a -2 on a failed save, but -1 on a successful save. So, yes, you're going to have a difficult time. Well, at least your players are going to have a difficult time facing this creature when they are fully decked out in their non-enchanted armor, non-magical armor. Because non-magical weapons and non-magical armor are going to be affected by the Rust Metal and Corrosive Breath. But your magic armor should be fine. But this is the picture from that Dragon Rider's book. I kind of like it. It's one of my favorite dragons. But it's slightly on the weaker side. Since its scales are tarnished, it's actually a little bit weaker, so it'll be easier to uh, kill. However, due to its rusting capabilities, it definitely has something going for it. Uh, as far as where this could go, I have no idea. You can have it just about anywhere, though I think if you had a steampunk type of world like Eberron, is that how you pronounce it? I don't remember. Anyway, if you have something like that, that type of world would actually be perfect for a rust dragon because of all the metal. Well, that is all the time I have for you today, viewers. That was all of the metallic and Ferrous dragons, which you can classify as metallic dragons as well, since they are technically metal. As you have probably seen multiple times, please leave a request in the comments below of what character or creature you would like to see and what franchise that creature is from. Until next time, this has been Drahon, and I am offline.